On February 27th, KALX producer Arnold Woods and I went to the California Medical Facility at Vacaville, where Charles Manson is currently being incarcerated. We made the trip at the invitation of Manson, who contacted the station through an intermediary. When asked why he had chosen our station, Manson stated that he liked Berkeley, and so being a Berkeley station, he said he thought he'd offer us a chance at the interview. After being searched by guards at the main entrance to the prison, Woods and I were escorted to a point outside a heavy metal gate. There we waited for Manson to be escorted to the room on the other side of the gate where the interview was to be conducted. Manson arrived shortly and was locked inside the room. The gate was then opened, and we two were led to the interview room.
Just see when the people over there are ready to get out of the line. Thank you. Hello? Kennedy? Kennedy, right. Nice to meet you. This is my family, Arnold Woods. How are you doing?
The door was locked behind us, and we proceeded to set up our equipment for the interview. Music being the intended topic of discussion, I began the questioning by asking Manson about his friendship with Alvin Karpus, the last surviving member of the Ma Barker gang, who had taught him how to play the guitar.
Karpus showed me some, guitar players change rubs all the time. They show each other different things that they play. He just showed me some of the things that he played. But his style of music was not my style of music, but even though I incorporated some of his repertoire into what I play. He was just a good old man that I met on the road. He had been done wrong also. He never did anything. J. Edgar Hoover just put him in jail because he was friends of people that did something, and he wouldn't snitch, and he wouldn't tell. In other words, he held his mud for 48 years.
How about yourself? Do you categorize yourself in the same way?
I don't categorize myself.
No.
Do you?
Do you think you've been done wrong?
Oh yeah, they're way off base. Before the hippies, you guys were kids. They were kids to me, I'd already went through that. I was Elvis Presley before he was.
I understand that you are now going to be producing an album with the punk rock band Black Flag.
If you look at everything backwards, Terry Milcher came to me. I didn't go to him. They came to me to play music. Dennis Wilson came to me in the mountains. I wasn't going down there trying to play music. The DA would say, hey man, you were trying for a record career. I had a record career. I didn't want a record career. I just got out of one prison. I didn't want to go into another. When you do music or you do anything for the public, you got to be a slave to that. You got to be there on time. You got to carry clocks and dollar bills and tax trips. You got all kinds of things to do. I was free in the mountains. I didn't want. What do I want a music career for? I got a music career. I don't need. I play music for music. I don't play music for attention. I don't play music to little girls. I'm not selling records. I don't play music like you guys play music. You're blocked up in little squares to play music. I don't play music like that.
Okay, so you aren't doing it for the public's interest, it's purely for your own enjoyment?
It's for my own enjoyment, and I found out that in California that in order to get justice, you must buy it. They will not give you what they call fair trials. If you have the rights that our fathers died for, I would have had my trial, and I would have had my rights in my day in court, but I didn't. All I got was, you guys blamed me for the 60s. And then Jerry Rubin and A.B. Hoffman and Timothy Leary and Barbara Rondas and all the Holy Moroccos, they all ran the other way when it got too nasty. They would tell their children, raise up and kill your mom and dad, but then when they raised up and killed their mom and dad, then all the people that said that ran. And then they blamed it over on me and said, oh, well, Charlie Manson's a hippie cult leader, and he made up kids do all that. But none of them kids that got busted said that.
At one time, did you feel any affinity for them?
Sure, I still love them, sure. They're still like mine. They're like me. They're like street people. It's like this, man. And back in the 40s, when I'd be on the basketball court, for example, and all the kids would say, "Hey, your mom's calling you, Billy." You know, so Billy would leave, and then John would leave, and Tom would leave, and I'd be out there sitting on the basketball smoking a joint. You know, and I was unaccepted. I was the outcast. So I ended up stealing a bicycle, and I went to reform school. And then I get out 10 years later, and I go back to the neighborhood, and I go back to the basketball court, and everybody's grown up, and there's a whole new wave of kids there. So we sit and we talk, and I say, "Whatever happened to Johnny?" "Well, he died in Korea." "Well, whatever happened to Joe?" "Well, he's an automobile engineer in Detroit." "And whatever happened to so-and-so?" "Well, he moved to Chicago." And then I steal a car, and I get a gun, and I go rob a few places. And then I come back out of prison after 10 years, and I go back over on the basketball court. And the time for Johnny to go home, Johnny doesn't go home. And the basketball court, there's 10 or 15 kids, and it's all the way after dark. And what are you kids doing out after dark? Well, ain't you going to go home for dinner?" "Oh, no, my mom kicked me out of the house. My mom's a drunk. She don't like me." In other words, the last time I got out in 67, the road that I was walking on, hey, there's a whole bunch of kids walking on the same road. I said, "Well, I didn't know you knew this place."
So, in other words, you feel you had your bed laid for you early on?
No, when I heard Timothy Leary say, "Tune in and drop out," I knew where they were dropping out to because I had been on the under road, on the back side of what's happening, you know. In other words, in the darkness.
Do you have a resentment for types of things that you did encounter when you were a child?
No, I don't waste my time with those silly little resentments and hate and all that bitterness and all that. Right.
Did it have an effect on you at one time?
Just to the point to where I found out what it does to you. In other words, I'm not going to destroy myself because someone else is suicidal. Someone else has got problems, that's their problems, not mine. I got my own road I walk.
So, in other words, you don't feel any remorse for your childhood, but you do feel it did affect you and your outcome?
No, I'm glad. I was glad to be raised by myself. And I think it worked out better. Sometimes you're good. The best parents are the worst parents. And sometimes the worst parents are the best. Because the worst parents don't teach you anything and leave you to learn for yourself.
But you do understand that from somebody else's perspective, they may have felt that they were, detrimental. Do you regret anything that occurred in your lifetime?
Not to this point, no.
Okay, well, let me get back to your music. As I mentioned earlier, you had said that you are cutting an album with the group.
No. I got a little tape recorder like this little Mickey Mouse thing here. And in fact, it's not as good as that. And I play a little music and I sing a little music. And what happened was I gave a couple tapes that I had made to a friend of mine about 4 years ago. And he said he wanted to do something with them. Well, I told him, go ahead and do whatever you do. So he got in touch with some kind of lawyer somewhere doing something. And then they got this thing going, and now they're talking about they're coming out with an album.
Oh, this is the Us magazine article?
Yeah, but it's not an album done in a studio. It's a Mickey Mouse little trip for... but knowing the way the news media has dealt with me, they'll take it and make it into as the best thing that I could do, but it's actually not really... It's not really a reflection of any music that I play. It's a reflection of me passing my time in practicing. I guess you'd call it practicing. I'm not really practicing, I just like to play,
You mentioned that, in 1967 you did break up a relationship with both Terry Melcher and Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. Now, Terry Melcher was the person who had owned the home that Sharon Tate was murdered in earlier, and obviously there were some connections made between his previous ownership of the home and the eventual deaths of Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring and Abigail Folger and Wojtek Frykowski. Was there any connection between those events?
That's my neighborhood. I run that neighborhood. I run in that neighborhood. I live on the beach. I live in Venice, Santa Monica, in the mountains. And I went to that house 4 or 5 times with a friend of mine that's named Dean Morehouse. He's a religious type fella, deacon in the Methodist Church. And I've been to the house and parties. And Tex Watson knew the house because he was on the edge of what I was doing. He was watching the way I was doing what I was doing, putting together whatever I was putting together. So he picked that house. He just went to that house because he knew that house. But it didn't directly have anything to do with me.
So it was just coincidence that it happened to be previously owned by Terry Melcher?
Yeah, just total coincidence. Yeah.
Tell me about your relationship with Mr. Melcher and how you happened to strike
I like Terry. Terry's a nice, gentle person. He's a peaceful person. He doesn't lie. He's treated me right. I would consider him a friend, but I think all this madness scared him. I think it scared him to thinking that I'm somebody that I'm not, you know. A lot of people think that Manson is some great monster, but the only monster Manson is what the media created and the district attorney created. Do you guys realize what's going to happen to this country because of that case? When you can go to college, son, and learn to be a lawyer, and then you can go to a district attorney's position and do anything you want, that makes you the leader of this country. You can put anybody on trial and say anything you want to say and tell any lie you want to lie. Why spend billions of dollars for a school to study criminology when all they do is set up on the witness stand and lie? You just lie, and then you don't need the schools, you know. And the whole thing was a big sham. It was a big act for the world, man, a big play that they put the children on trial for trying to stop the war. And then all the people like Joan Baez and what's that other chick's name?
Oh, you mean Jane Fonda?
Yeah, Jane Fonda and all those people. They'll scream and they'll holler for the kids to do something, and then when the kids do it, then they say the kids are all fucked up, you know. And the only ones that bring change since time began is the young people. The young people are the ones that have to suffer the sufferings to change the system. Well, we're still working to change the system. We're still improving the system and working within the system.
So are you saying that the murders of Sharon Tate and the La Biancas was a political act?
My goodness, man. Did you see Jerry Rubin stand up in the TV camera with an M16 and say, raise up children, kill your moms and dads? You didn't see that? You don't remember that?
Sure.
Well, you didn't put him on trial. You got Charlie Manson and put Charlie Manson on trial. Did you hear A.B. Hoffman go through all the colleges and give all the speeches to all the young minds about how to shoot cocaine, how to deal with your dope, and how to play in that underworld? And then at the same time, he never spent 3 days in jail. He owns the judge. He buys and sells judges. And he rides on the top of you children. Then he'll go back and play like he's hiding. Let me explain something to you. To hide from the FBI in the United States of America is almost an impossibility. Slick Willie Sutton, one of the slickest crooks in the world, couldn't do it. You got Patty Hearst, and you got her acting like she's on the run from the law. She was never on the run from the law. She was in the FBI office all the time. You know, and then you got A.B. Hoffman that acts like, we're with you kids. All right, you kids, you go do this, and then the kids run and do it, and then who gets the blame? You know, the kids get the blame. And then the kids go down and let me take you to Strawberry Field where nothing is real but the medication in the nut warts, and then they cut their wrists and write I love you God all over the walls and hang themselves on the ventilators, you know.
Yeah, you take deference with the use of drugs and drinking. Is that an established value of yours that you just don't like drinking and drugs, or was this at any time?
I smoke grass, and I've lived around drugs all my life, and I've lived around booze all my life. I'm not against anything. I'm against the misuse. You can misuse anything, man. You know, you can say the guy's hooked on marijuana, and to some people that's a reality, you know. And then they say one drug leads to another, and other people that's a reality. But the younger people don't see how those thoughts became a reality. Why are we fighting drugs? Why do we spend millions and millions of dollars fighting drugs when you can sell it in the drugstore and it wouldn't be a problem? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You know, the whole thing is silly. It's not the drugs that are bad, and it's not the people that are bad. It's all the mess that you've got created around the misunderstanding of the drugs. There's nothing wrong with drugs. If you're sick in the hospital and they come and give you a shot to take away the pain, you appreciate the drugs. I think God put everything there for us to use. If we misuse it, that's our fault. And one way we're misusing it, we're fighting against the power that we're not going to overcome. We have to flow with the flow of those drugs. You know.
Last September, you were severely burned by a fellow inmate who doused you in paint thinner and lit a match. You know, he says you attacked his religious beliefs and threatened him. Was this just an isolated conflict between two inmates, or?
It was in his mind. I didn't have anything in my mind. I'm not thinking about anything. He's arguing with himself. The devil he's chasing is the one that he's living with. That's inside of him. You know, his fears and his doubts he has to deal with. You know, it hasn't got anything to do with me. You know, like he could have got more argument from the church house than he got from me. I have no religious convictions in any particular direction. I'm my own religion.
There's been much publicity surrounding the fact that you were allegedly known as Jesus Christ, and that the Manson family was the quote chosen few.
Yeah, this is part of your district attorney. He had to say all that to win a conviction. He had to hook me up as being a leader in something. I've never led anything in my life. I had a motorcycle, a sleeping bag, and a guitar, and that's it. You know, and if anybody is on the same road I'm on, and they need a cigarette or a dollar bill or a ride or they're hitchhiking, I generally help them as much as I can. You know, I never owned that ranch. I wasn't the central figure in anything except the music. I like to play music. I play music. People come around and listen. Okay. If they give me something to eat, okay. If they don't, okay, man. You know, like I'm not, you know, I wasn't waving any flags. I wasn't out to do anything. I just got out of 22 years of prison, man. I just got out of prison. Can you imagine 22 years in prison? Can you imagine that?
It is hard to imagine.
Well, I just got out. How could I be responsible for the children of the 60s when I was locked up in the dungeon all during the 60s? And as far as me being Jesus, let me explain to this. This little before your time, there was a guy named Krishna Venta who claimed that he was the second coming of Jesus Christ. And he had a cult in Box Canyon in Los Angeles. He called it the Fountain of the World. And he was having a sex orgy one night with about 12 or 15 women. And in those days, back during the 40s, that wasn't very well accepted. So what happened was someone put dynamite up underneath his house and blew him up. They blew him up, blew his wife, all his children, blew everybody up. Blew about 15 or 20 people up. And there was bodies all. And I was a kid looking at this. So it just so happened that, we'll say 25 years later, I was standing on the same spot with 15 women. And there had been 15 women blew up. And we laughed and we got in a circle and we said, we were blew up here once. So that we won't have to blow the world up. You know, maybe we can make a little mark here where we won't need to blow the world up, and the next wave of kids can have their game to straighten out another end of it, like the air, the water, the trees, and the wildlife. See, there's certain order in life, and the order in life to each man would be himself first. And then after you got yourself in order, then you reach for your city, your town, your country, your world, you know. So it's, a guy was trying to put order into his life. And he would preach on the weekends, and he would hang on a cross, and he'd come down, and he had all these followers. All right. When I got out, I was running with a guy named Jesus. He called himself Christopher Jesus. And the cops had a tentative list because we were burning up road equipment that was tearing up the land. They were destroying the water and destroying the animals in the deserts. So what I did was I used to go around and burn up all these things that were tearing up the earth. And I would sneak around and do devilish little things to slow their progress down, because when you see 200,000 or 300,000 animals dying because somebody wants to put a fence across the desert for no particular reason except making money and selling something to the public for a new road production, blah, all that madness that they play in. And I tear the fences down and tear the water and put the water back into the land where the animals can have a game to play. And Jesus was running with me, and we called him Zero. And then when the cops had this list, this tentative list of who's who and what's what. They come up to me and they said, "Are you Jesus?" Because Jesus was spelled like Jesus. And I said, "No, my name is Manson." They said, "Oh yeah, you're him, son of man. Manson, yes, you're him." I said, "What?" So that when they booked me in the county jail, they thought it was real funny. They booked me as also known as Jesus Christ. I had never had any thought like that in my life. I never needed to think I was anyone. Why must I be somebody? I mean, everybody's got a name. I've had thousands of names. I don't need a name. What do I need a name for? I don't even name my dogs. My dogs are just dogs. I name my chickens, or it doesn't make sense. The whole thing. I'm from another world, man. You guys live in one kind of world. I live in a whole altogether different world. Because you got to consider, I was raised up in jail, not on the street. And as far as the religious aspect, I was a student of Paharasa Yogananda in the 50s and the 40s. I went through all the retreats, and I've seen the light. I know all the things that Masi Mushi knows, or Hushi Basha, or whatever you want to call them.
What is prison life like for you? At one time you had said that prison had become home to you.
Yeah, prison is a thought. Prison is in the mind. Someone draws a line and says you're in prison. I'm going to put you in prison, and your number is 3359, and you're going to do rah, 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 rah. It's a struggle of will. It's a struggle of whose will is doing what. If their will is interposed up over your will, then you're considered to be in prison. But as Ganji would tell you probably that the passive force overcomes all that. There's no prison, not to me. I'm just here, The people that are in prison are locked up in their minds. They get paid to go back and forwards and torment other people, and I just look at them, and it doesn't affect me, not personally.
So do you still consider prison home in that sense?
I'm home. Anywhere I'm at's home. If I'm in Chicago, I'm still here. Anywhere I go, I'm here. If I'm in New York, I'm still here. If I'm in Florida, I'm still here. No matter where I go, I'm here. So home to me is me. I'm my own home because I was raised by myself. But someone that was raised with a mother and father, they have the thoughts in their minds and the patterns in their minds of whatever home is to them.
Do you consider the idea of being released? Do you want to be released from prison?
Released? I just want to be left alone, and I'd like to have my own will back to where I could do what I want to do. I would be content and satisfied with the rights that my fathers died for. It's that simple. It was all written down in 1776. It was laid out just as beautiful as God had done it. And everybody wants to find a God somewhere, man, and we got people landing on the moon. My goodness. It's like one guy come up and said, my God quarried 3,200 stone and lifted it up over these mountains and set it perfectly in place. I said, oh, yeah, you got a big God. I said, now look up there at that 747. I said, now that's more than 3,200 tons, and it's not only set in perfect place, it's flying around the world. So, how far would you have to go before you see God? You see space shuttles, and you say God, and these guys are still down here worshiping something that some medieval torture chamber was doing, and nailing people to boards and things and calling it God. I don't see that world. I dismissed that world a long time ago. Really, I have. I dismissed it. It's gone from my mind. I don't even. It comes over and says, you pay me some attention. I said, no. Well, you accept our God as being the God. I said, all right, I'll accept anything. Now can I get on with my business? They said, well, we want you to. I said, okay, man, you're all right. I accept everything you say. Everything's perfect. All right, you guys go your way. Can I leave now? And they said, no, we want to hold you. I said, why? Because we want to pick arguments with you and throw fire on you and drag you up and down the hallways and blame you for everything we don't understand and everything we don't know. I said, hey, look, I said, sit down and I'll explain it to you. How simple and childish it is. You all grew up. I didn't. You all grew up and I didn't. I watched you all grow up and I said, wow, far out. You get old and you lose your teeth, your hair falls out, you get fat, and you pay yourself to do all kinds of crazy little things. And I have no judgments against your world, only what is. But you guys have always, I was going to say you, I'm talking about the system, has always put its judgments over on me, trying to make me into something that you could relate to. But you can't relate to me, unless you're me.
So in other words, if you were released, you would be content to that fact? That
no, somebody's going to pay. Somebody's going to pay, one way or another. If the courtrooms are in order, I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue for everything California got. You know, I'll own California by the time this is over. You know, if I sue. Now, if I can't sue, that's okay too. Then I'll start a revolution. I won't say that I've already got one going, but look around you and maybe you'll see that it's like this. A guy comes up to you and he's called the district attorney. He's got all these guys and he handcuffs you and he sets you down. And he says, you're going to play this game whether you want to play it or not. So they start dealing out cards. And they deal you hippie cult leader. You don't know what a hippie cult leader is. There's never been a hippie cult leader. So you got to go find out what a hippie cult leader is. You know, you say, all right, I got a hippie cult leader card. I got 9 murder cards. I'm supposed to be responsible for making all these people do all these things. I'm supposed to have this awesome power to move people to destruction and have the power of the presidency that I can put troops in the field and have them go out and fight and die and take other people's lives for me. I'm a whole government by myself, convicted to be that. That's not me. But they convicted me for Nixon. They gave me all of Nixon's problems, all of Nixon's children. And then they say, I'm Nixon, they convict me and throw me into jail. And then every one of my friends that you call my family, were my friends, not my family, my friends. They didn't have any friends. The district attorney has no friends. His friends is his dollar bill and his wife that tells him what to do. Okay? So I've got friends. And he doesn't like me because I got friends. He hates me because I got friends. Because he wants to have friends, but he doesn't know how to have friends. He plays tennis with himself. You see him in college. You dig? And they study their books and they get real good and they're proficient in what they do, you know. But they're still distorted in their makeup because they haven't accepted that there are someone else in the world, you know, besides their own selfish interest.
So you disavowed the designation of the Manson family. That's just something that was projected on what you call your friends?
I am the Manson family. My will, I say open my hand, it opens. I say close my hand, it closes. My will, my hands, my fingers, me. My heart, my soul, myself, me. I have earned that. It's like I told the judge. I know, God knows, and the Holy Spirit knows. And what you're selling down in the marketplace, your children are going to have to work that off. So I would suggest you not sell them a whole bunch of lies, you know. But they continued to sell that damn Helter Skelter trip that had nothing to do with me. Helter Skelter, to me, was a nightclub in the desert. And I cut the card game a nickel. So I could buy dune buggy parts and go out and play in the desert.
Let me ask you what the connection is between the Helter Skelter, which was written on the La Bianca's refrigerator, and then there was had written your own song composition called Helter Skelter. Had you not?
Who told you that? No, I hadn't. No, I hadn't even thought of anything like that. Helter Skelter was painted on different things, man. It was a reflection of why don't we do it in the road? You know, that was you see, you guys got to realize, man, I'm 50 years old. Bing Crosby was my heartthrob. Frank Sinatra was my hero. Not the Beatles. In other words, Dean Martin lives right across the river from where I live in Wheeling, West Virginia. I'm from Kentucky. I'm a Kentucky boy. You know, in other words, like, it took me 20-some years to get to California. Some of you guys are born and raised in California because your parents came here, but man, I got no thought. You know, I'm not into the same things you guys are into. You know, not now and not during the '60s. In other words, my generation was the '30s. I was raised up during the Depression. You guys don't even know what it's like to be hungry. You know, there's a difference. You know, and the kids that were running in the street when I got out, I liked them. I really did. You know, if they were my kids, I'd be awful proud of them. Even though they did some dirty, terrible things, they still stopped the war. They did it, you know, and they probably saved a lot of their brothers' lives. But they're still in jail, and they have to take the blame for it. But they're not accepted as political prisoners, you know, because some DA had to make up something. Or someone else tell a lie, say, well, you did it for money. Or he did it for, and there's all kinds of motives that they play with, but do you ever think he didn't do it? You know, you're always looking for the motive before you find out whether that he did it. And then another thing is, you go to court in this country, and it says they're not interested in why you did it, they're interested in if you did it. But why you did it should be an issue also. Why are the children doing what they're doing? Why does a child reach up and kill his mom and dad and murder his 2 little sisters and then cut his throat? You know, why would a child do something like that? Because we're not raising it up right. We're programming it poorly. Our TVs are murdering people every 15 minutes. You see 2 or 3 people dying on TV. And yet, to the generation of the 60s and 70s, well, the TV's raising the children. The TV's their mom and dads.
If you had had a different situation, would you have turned out differently, or do you think you...
No, then I wouldn't know what I know. I'm satisfied with what I know. Yeah. I've got my world. You know, I've got my world. There's very few people can say that. They're always, they must hold on to somebody or something else. I don't hold on to nobody or nothing. You know, I don't need anything. All I need is be left my own life balance. When I got out of prison, I went up in the mountains and I looked around and I sat down and I seen the water all polluted. I seen the trees being cut down. I seen this concrete maze that man has made. And it's like I had come from another place that's not the same as the place that you guys are, or that world lives in. And I thought, well, who's responsible for this? Whose job is this to make sure that we got air here to breathe? Because we're going to run out of air here, man. This whole planet's going to run out of air. And I look at the water, and I look at the way they're misusing the resources and the water, and how they use tons and tons and tons and tons of paper. You got 200 million people shoveling paper all day long. You know, and you think there's something has to be done here, you know, to reach a balance to where we can have life on this planet. You watch the people feed tons of grain to animals, and then they kill the animals and eat the animals. Why don't they just eat the grain and leave the animals live? It don't make sense. Why are they eating the animals? They eat flesh and blood, and then they go to church and talk about thou shalt not kill. And they kill every day with every breath they take, you know. And you say, you got to quit killing the animals, man. You got to quit eating the flesh. What's wrong with you, man? Gee, man. And then I say that the life they're killing is mine. And then I go out and they're cutting a great big old tree down, and I say, oh, I feel that. I feel it. What are you doing? You're cutting me down here. So I tell him, don't cut me down or I'll shoot you. You know, if you keep cutting the trees down, I'm going to cut you down. And he said, well, look, I got a wife and kids, and I need the money. I have a job, and I don't know anything else. And I said, well, I can't blame you. Who's your boss? So I go to the boss, and the boss says, well, I've worked 20 years to be foreman here. And he says, this is my way of life, and my kids are going to college, and I need the money. I said, well, it ain't your fault. And then I said, well, who's your boss? And he said, Ace and Ace Lumber Company. So I go to the Ace Lumber Company, and they a subsidiary to a Reviscat company, and 40% of that stock owned by Reverend Sun and Moon, another, or let me say Korea. I shouldn't say Reverend Sun and Moon because I'm not sure of that, but then another 20% is owned by Bolivia, and somebody else owns 10%, and then Margaret of Malibu owns 10%, and you go check Margaret out, and she died 5 years ago, and she willed all her assets to the cats, and she's got 300 cats living in a 10-bedroom mansion with a butler and a chauffeur, and everybody's provided for life as long as they take care of the cats, and the cats are reproducing themselves, so we got a legal lock on the trees, and so the cats are walking around cutting all the trees down. And everybody else, you know, in other words, the whole thing is just, man, you got to redo it. That's all there is to it. You got to re-wallpaper and change. You got to change within the system. So that's what we've been doing. And every time you hear, I'm going crazy and I'm busting up everything and I burn up everything and I went to the nut ward 4 or 5 times, then you'll see Governor Brown jump up and say, oh, we've got you a redwood park. In other words, all the time that we raise hell down here and say, well, anybody that cuts redwood trees down has no respect for their own children. Those trees are thousands of years old and they belong to the kids. Don't be cutting them down. They say, well, we need our hot tubs, you know. So then we'd get hammers and bust all the windows out and go to the church and bang everything up and burn everything up and say, now, if anybody does that, and then the fear gets to running, and the only thing that the politicians understand is fear. You run a little fear at them, and then they'll all change their ways, you know. You run a little fear at them in this respect. They're scared to death of the public. They're scared of public opinion. They're scared of you guys that do this kind of thing here.
Looking back to, the Tate LaBianca murders, would there have been a more, I use the word acceptable, means of expressing your political thought?
You see what I'm saying? You're still stuck in your head that I had something to do with that.
So you're
still stuck in. I'll give it to you this way. Here's what I had to do with it. I've influenced everybody that I was around, but I could influence nobody any more than I've been influenced. If you put me in reform school and you beat me with a leather strap, and then you drag me up down the hallways and break my jaw, and you bust my eyes, and and then you throw me out into the world, you dig? All the things that you've done to me, I got permission to do to you. Every time that you have misused me, when I get back on the street, you wonder why crime raises. I come in here and a cop misuses me in the hallway. Well, when I get out, what am I going to do? If I can see that the state of California can take and kill people in the gas chamber, doesn't that give me permission to do the same thing? You see what I'm saying? You're dealing with one mind, but the people that are running the mind that you're dealing with, they don't even know what the mind is. They think they got a mind. Nobody's got a mind. The mind has everybody. But everybody wants to think that they've really got something going, so they play all these different little political games. I'm interested in my life, the order that runs in my atmosphere, in my world, the one I know. I can't know what anybody else knows. All I can know is what I know. I've been raised as a crook, and I've been raised as a criminal, even though my crime hasn't really been but stealing a few cars and running away from home and juvenile delinquent stuff. I have still learned the ways of criminals. I got no malicious mischief in my mind to do anything other than maybe put some order into the world that I see as mine. Now, I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to like, and probably the world ain't going to like, but I'll tell it to you just like it is. I was raised to ride my own beef. If I do something, I'm responsible for my own actions. If I bust somebody in the mouth, I'll stand up to that. I won't back off of that. If it means my life, I will give my life for my principle. It's that simple, In short, the fire, it didn't budge me. I got out of the fire. It burnt my face off. My whole face was burnt off, and all my hands was burnt off. But they all grew back, and I'm still here. And I am still in the same thought, and I'm not intimidated by anything, ever. And I could die 1,000 million more battles, and it's still the same. But I am this way. If I wanted to, had it been me up in this Sharon Tate's house, it would have been a lot worse. Thank God that your children did it for you, and I didn't get started on it. Because if I'd have got started on it, it would have been a lot worse than it was. Because I am 10 times worse.
So you are maintaining that you have no
I didn't have
connection
nothing to do with those killings. With that group of murders there, I had nothing to do with that. But now what I've done that you don't know about could be 10 times worse than that. And I would be justified in doing it if I did it with my life. And I gave my life for that, just like those children did. The dispensation of truth is not a difficult thing. And most children can understand it. If you're willing to give your life for something, you go and you pick up your uniform, you get your M16, you put your helmet on, and you get in that jungle, and you do what your country tells you to do. If you don't, then there's nothing, you're not there. There's nothing to you. Because all a man is honor. If he has no honor and he has no truth, he has no faith, he has no trust, what is he? He's a jellyfish. If those were my kids, I would have been proud of them. I really would have, because I seen and I understood what happened, exactly. But I'm bound by another law that you're not bound by. I'm bound by a no-snitch law. I can't rat. If I rat, then I get killed, because I live in the underworld. In the underworld, they don't rat.
So you're saying that despite the fact that you say you weren't connected with it, you know who did?
Sure. I know the name of every mouse. I know every cockroach. I know what the spiders are thinking. Sure, I knew exactly. But it wasn't my affair. It wasn't my road, and it wasn't my business. And if someone thinks that they're right about something, I'm not going to get in their way, because I've learned. I'll give you this for a lesson. There was 2 guys in a cell. We'll call one Mr. A and one Mr. B. Mr. A said, I'm going to hang myself. And Mr. B says, no, brother, I like you. I don't want you to hang yourself. And Mr. A said, I'm miserable, and I just want to get out of this world, and I want to go off into another level. I'm gone. And the other guy said, no, I'm not going to let you. So Mr. A killed Mr. B, and then he hung himself. Well, I'm not going to get in nobody's way. If they're headed to the ventilator, I'm not going to fight somebody to keep them alive. If people are set to commit suicide and they want to go sideways, get them on out the door. I can't use them. I don't need no suicidal maniacs around me, because I've found this also. Every time you save somebody's life, you got to be responsible for that. If you see somebody that wants to commit suicide and you say, no, don't commit suicide, and then they go kill your best friend, then you'll wish to hell you'd let them go ahead and do what they wanted to do. See? But this country is overprotective of its people. It's always, in other countries I haven't found this to be so. But in this country, they don't want you to do this because they're afraid it'll hurt you. Come on. They're afraid it'll hurt you. That's like mother saying, don't climb the tree, you might fall and hurt yourself. Well, she might fall and hurt herself because she couldn't climb the tree. But you're a kid, you can climb the tree. You see what I'm saying? In other words, the older people have always put their values off on the younger people. And it's just the same old process that it's been since time began. The younger people keep throwing it off. And that's what the kids did down there in L.A. They threw that all off of them. They wanted to get their brother out of jail. And if they couldn't get their brother out of jail, you go to a lawyer, and it's known well all through the prison. Nobody likes criminal law. There's no money in criminal law. The criminal lawyers that are there are generally paid by the civil and the colleges. They pay the, what do they call them, public defenders. You know, they have to pay the public defenders because there's just no money in criminal law. It's a dirty business. Nobody likes it. So when you got a whole bunch of kids that get involved and they go to the lawyer takes their money, tells them a lie, takes their money, tells them a lie. Any place in the penitentiary in the world or in this country you go to, they say, what do you think of a lawyer? And they say, well, they take your money and lie. They take your money and lie. Unless you got a whole lot of money, then you give them a little bit, and then you got to string them out to where they think they're going to get some more. You know, and you have to play in the larceny because the lawyer has to be worse than the crook, or he can't trick the crook to taking a deal and going to jail, you know. In other words, the system is just, it's not what our fathers laid out. It's become corroded, and it's crusty, and it's dusty, and it needs redoing.
It's been 14 years since you were convicted of the Tate LaBianca killings, yet there still exists a group of people who other people designate the Manson family, you designate your friends. They still remain to this day, even people that you had never known. How do you explain how the Manson family or your friends have been able to stay together this long?
We've been truthful with each other. There's one thing I demand with anybody that I'm with, is I ain't lying to you, so don't you lie to me. Because if you lie to me, I might just knock you down on the spot. I got 3, 4 don't talk to me at all. If you're not going to talk the truth to me and I catch you in a lie, I'll either get you away from me some way, one way or another. I'll knock you down or do something to you to get you away from me, get you off of me, because I don't
feel that you've come out of it nonetheless.
You cannot break man's soul. You can bust his personality up, you can rearrange his thought pattern, but you cannot break his soul. His soul is forever. It's infinite.
Has it had an effect on you adversely, that is?
No, it made me a little stronger. A little more stronger in the original feelings that I had. My mind's not changed about anything. I say the mind is not changed. I keep saying my mind, but I know it's not mine. It belongs to everybody. And so does the family that they say it's mine. It's not mine, it's yours.
The idea that a group of people associated as they were when you were out of jail does put a scare into some people now. Do people have anything to fear from Charlie Manson's friends?
Sure they do. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, is that a direct fear or just a fear that they might expose something that?
A fear they might do some positive things. A lot of the negative people would really definitely be afraid. The negative people would be scared. You know, the ones that are wrong. See, when someone does something to you, then they fear you. If no one does anything to you, they have no reason to fear you. If they've never done you any wrong, then why should they be afraid of you? I think somebody calls that karma, don't they?
Yeah.
And they keep burning me up and saying my karma's bad. And I keep looking at them and smiling. But then I see 2,000 or 3,000 dead bodies laying around all burned up, and I say, oh, well, somebody's karma wasn't right there. They did, maybe somebody did something wrong, you know. And everybody's been trying to kill me for the last 15 years. They've handcuffed me and drugged me up down these hallways. I've been through all kinds of things that nobody wants to know about. Nobody wants to see. We'll just take this one over in the corner. It's like this. You're walking down the street, and you see 4 or 5 guys kicking a guy. And 4 or 5 guys jumping on this guy and jumping up and down, beating him up. And you don't do anything. You just run and hide. So when it comes your turn, when 4 or 5 guys jump on you and they start beating you up, then and you don't get no help, you got no gripe coming. You can't gripe about it because, like, you had your chance and you didn't help somebody. So when it comes your turn to get help, you know, in other words, concern goes beyond what you buy and sell. You don't buy concern and sell concern, not genuine concern. Genuine concern is genuine. It's from the heart. And if you people in the United States have no heart, then that's not my fault. You dig? I have one. And that's my friends. And that's my family. And you could call that the world, or you could call it a little group of people that were struggling to save the world they lived in. They didn't want the world blown up. They seen the big bombs dropped, and they said, please don't blow the world up. We don't want to blow the world up. You know, and we didn't blow the world up. And we're not going to blow the world up. And that's our love. We give you the world, you know, and we didn't blow it up. Now the next generation got it. Now your job is air, water, trees, and wildlife. If you don't save your air, water, trees, and wildlife, our efforts mean nothing, because what good's the world without life on it? See, in other words, we didn't blow it up. We saved it. We stopped it. We checked the nuclear buttons. Now we're disarming this, and we're putting that on one computer, and we're coming back to the space wars, where we're going to check out all them computers and stop all them, you know, to where we can get one sky. And then we got one sky coming with great ships, big airships coming, where we're going to cut down all the pollution. We've already got these things in motion. We've got things in motion that you don't even know about in your world yet. You watch them on TV and you think they're science fiction. But we were sincere, and we still are sincere, you know. And when I say we, I don't say we as if I pass out membership cards to say who we is. We is any human being that loves their life and wants to live on earth. Any human being that wants to quit eating flesh and blood with their teeth. You see what I'm saying? And start living where life is, and not living where all the self-destructive madness that was left over from some war that's already been fought and in the graveyards. Most people their minds are in the graveyards. Their whole behavior patterns have been set by people that are gone. Mark Twain.
You disavowed this idea that you were the leader of a religious cult and that type of thing. Yet in 1969, Susan Atkins, or Sadie Mae Glutt, as you called her, said the family was sort of she equated it with a religious order. Do you agree with Sadie Mae's?
It became something beyond my will. I never said this court is in order yet. I've never rang my courtroom up for anything. I got no judgments on nothing. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm a stubborn old tramp on the road. I'm a hobo. I'm a bum. I ain't got nothing to do with nobody. I don't like I throw rocks at people. Get away from me. I got thrown into this to the point to where everybody would come up and say family, 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 to where it's even got in my mind the family was only a music group. We had played in the corral on Topanga Canyon, and and they said, what's the name you're going to call yourselves? I said, well, call ourselves Family Jams. So we were Family Jams, you know, and then...
This is at Spawn's Ranch?
Yeah, it was just Family Jams, and everybody there either took a part in the music, they were singing or playing or doing some sort of thing, sound equipment or whatever. We had cameras, I had a production company. We could have done anything we wanted, but all we were really doing was playing. We were doing it. You see what I'm saying? We used to call that the MMT. And we would, it's a play act, man. It's all a big act anyway, you know. It's just play act, different things. And then when this started correlating and other people started getting their inputs in it, then I seen, hey, I got no control over it, guy. I can't say, well, the Manson family composed 200 people and it did so and so and such and so, because, I never paid any attention to most of those people. I'm fixing my doom buggy. I'm doing what I'm doing.
So in other words, you're saying that there may have been some of your friends who may have been misguided?
Each person was their own leader, and that family was theirs. The family that Sadie Glut sees is the family that was hers, and that's her family, and that's real to her. And I'll tell her, oh yeah, well, Sadie, I got to go somewhere right now, and I'd be doing something else. And whatever her reality is hasn't got anything to do with me. The same thing, Squeaky got a family in her mind. Each person got a circle of people in their life that they call their friends or their family. You got a circle of people that you run in? Would you call that your family or your friends?
Friends, family.
Now, if you got arrested, they would say, oh, that's your family. And then they arrest everybody you know, throw everybody you know in jail, and try you for a whole bunch of things, and then you become a family whether you like it or not. You're in a spaceship whether you want to be there or not. I got red on one side, blue on the other, green, gold, yellow. I got all the different girls that got busted are all colors. We set that on Indian Mesa up in the Santa Susana Mountains. And then you see all the people of the next generation coming along talking about, oh, we're the rainbow people. And then you see A.B. Hoffman getting a haircut and Jerry Rubin getting a haircut, going over and telling everybody, all right, now we're all rainbow people. We're not hippies no more. We're in gippies now, and we're rainbow people, and we're doing this for $1.35. You know, and we're getting rich again. And they're getting rich off the blood of the children. And some of the children are strong enough to get back through it. And when they get back through it and they see Timothy Leary, they're going to say, thanks a lot, Tim. You really did us good. You dumped us down the hole and ran off and left us. And then told on us and lied and cheated. Now you're a comedian, huh? Yeah, you definitely are a comedian, all right. And one day somebody might catch him in the alley and give him the end of a garbage can, what he's got coming. And then when he gets what he's got coming, you'll ask, do you have any reason to fear the Manson family? Because you created the Manson family. Now this wave of humanity that has came in, it's coming back out now. And it's mad. And it's angry. It's angry. It never killed anyone. It didn't want to kill anyone. It would rather give its life than kill somebody. It says, here, man, take the gun, shoot me. You take what I'm saying? But let them live.
If that's the case, do you...
Another level, I feel on another level, I see every time that they tell those lies and every time that they keep this perpetuate this damn helter-skelter, it adds more power. It gives me more power. It gives me power to pretty soon you're going to have the whole world trembling. And I'm going to have the controls then. And then you got guys now that got the controls, but they don't have the power. You put somebody with the power at the control and you watch the old buggy rock. Because then the thing will be, then it'll be a whole different world. It'll be a whole different planet. It'll be a whole different perspective. The bureaucratical bullshit will go. There won't be no more bureaucratical madness because we can't afford this. Do you realize what you people are paying for? Do you realize what your tax dollars are paying for? You're paying for a bunch of people that are all stuck back in these things doing nothing. But walking back and forth, holding it. So the next wave of kids could have to pay their debts, you dig? Rather than change it the way it's supposed to be changed, they won't give it up. So we got to wait for them to die. So we'll wait for a whole wave of them to die. The last 4 doctors died of heart attacks. The other doctor blew his brains out. Got 2 more doctors that killed themselves in automobile accidents. So I got to sit here and wait for the medical association to die out again. So I can get out and then I can be sane. But until then I'm insane. I'm totally insane. Because I put all these master plans together to destroy the whole atmosphere and pollute the ground. I created this big monster, and I'm the white man. I'm no good. I'm terrible. I'm all the bad things, you know. And I don't see it that way, you know. I don't see it the way other people see it. That's the way they see it. And that's their judgment, that's their circle, and that's their family. My family, if they were all in here, I'd just look at it and grin.
Yeah. So you say that you may have made some mistakes, but these mistakes were just exaggerated, blown out of proportion?
You know,
because certainly you have to agree from somebody else's...
You say mistake. A mistake to me is just a lesson, man. When I fall down on the first step, I learn to grab the second step. And if the second step breaks, I don't call it a mistake. I just go for the third step. And when the third step don't work, then I skip on up to the fourth step. You know, in other words...
But some of your mistakes, you do admit, impinged on other people's life, their ability to judge. Well, some of your mistakes may have impinged on somebody else's right to determine their values.
Well, let's split a hair there. The matriarch and the patriarch. The matriarch teaches mistakes. The patriarch doesn't know what a mistake is. There's no such thing as a mistake. Mistake, I can't understand what the word doesn't even correlate in my mind for anything. Mistake. People play mistakes. That's a stage play. Mistakes. You don't make no. How's the universe going to make a mistake? How can God make a mistake? If you want to get to the words of it, you go to the ultimate. If there's one transistor or one little light bulb burn out, them big planes won't fly. They don't make mistakes. The mechanics don't make mistakes. Them engineers don't make mistakes. They work perfect. That's the reason they fly like they do. There's no mistake there. I don't see any mistake. I can't think of any mistake. In other words, I don't even use that word. If you got another word, maybe I might understand what you're trying to say.
Acts that you had made may have impinged upon somebody else, and you certainly could agree with that, could you?
I see what you're saying, yeah, but it's like this. You go to the ballet, and you see the perfection and motion that has been passed down for generations. You see this perfection, and it goes into your eyes, and it goes into your mind, and then pretty soon it becomes a part of you, and you dance, and you dance that dance. Is it their fault that you dance the dance? Does that make sense? In other words, people come to me and they see me move. They see what I can do. And then they say, hey, man, I didn't know I could do that. And they say, all right, you really move. And I say, yeah. And then they go around and they move like that. And then you see the kids all moving like that. And then you come and you say, is that your conspiracy to make those kids move like that? Because with the moves that you showed those kids, they went out and killed somebody. It's like a guy come up to me once and he was freaking out on acid. And he said, oh, man, I'm going crazy. He said, everything is all fucked up, man. The world is all miserable. And I said, no, it ain't, brother, man. I said, everything's all right. Everything's in harmony, man. I said, everything's perfect. I said, can't you see perfection? Look at it in yourself. He says, it is? I said, yeah. I said, it's a nice day, man. Look at the sun's out and everybody's having a good day. I said, it's a wonderful day. I says, can't you appreciate that? And he said, sure. I said, well, then relax your mind, man. Get all that negative vibration out of you and go on down the road and have a good day, man. So he came back 2 or 3 hours later and he said, I killed somebody. I said, why do you come and tell me? That puts me back in prison, man. I don't want to hear what you did, son. That's your life. Don't put your road over on mine. I'm doing something over here. Well, you said everything was all right. You said everything was perfect. I said, yeah, but I didn't tell you to go do something like that. Now you're trying to give me the responsibility that your mom and dad should have. That's your mom and dad's responsibility. That's not my responsibility. I'm not your mom and dad. Why am I convicted and thrown in the damn nut ward for 15 years and tormented and tortured because the parents don't want to take responsibility for their own damn children? What kind of silly shit is that? And then the wedding ring starts falling down, and everybody's divorcing everybody else, and then you wonder why your system is falling apart. It's falling apart because you didn't give me my rights down in the courtroom. You didn't face the truth about your own children in the 60s. They weren't bad kids. Most of those kids were graduated from school. Mary's a history teacher. Blue's a marine biologist. Red's a English literature major. I got the librarian right out of Berkeley. She's not bad. She skis. She's a beautiful girl. There was nothing wrong with her. Her mama had her all off in some bunch of crazy things that didn't make any sense, but she was working her way out of that, There was nothing wrong with that woman, and she didn't do anything wrong.
This is who again?
No, this is Mary. She's the one that got shot, and she had the shotgun out there in the street. She was shooting at the cop. That's where Patty Hearst covered that up with that Hawthorne gun robbery trip. Remember when Patty shot at the surplus store? Well, yeah. Mary and Gypsy had robbed the store to get some guns to try to get us out of the courtroom, see? Because we were going to get out of the courtroom. I was very indignant. I was very upset. See, here, let me explain this to you. In jail, there is a reality. And the reality is, if you go rob a liquor store and you know that you can get 5 years in the courtroom, and you get caught, and you get 5 years in the courtroom, you got no gripe. You got no gripe coming. Go do your 5 years. You took a chance. You gambled 5 years of your life, and you lost. So you got no gripe coming. So when I was young, I would always be bitching about the system. I'd say, well, the lawyer did this and the lawyer did that. And the old man would tell me, He'd say, boy, did you do it? And I'd say, yeah, but he'd say, ain't no buts. If you did it, you did it, and that's all there is to it. Shut your mouth, do your time, quit sniveling. Why don't you be a man about what you're doing? And I said, okay. So I lived with that philosophy. And when I stood in that courtroom down in Los Angeles, I could have explained this whole thing in 15 minutes. And I told the judge, I held my hands up to him, and I said, I got no blood on my hands, man. I got no responsibility for this thing that's going here. This is not my thought. It's not my world. It's not my projection. The only projection that I had into it was to get my brother out of jail, see. So when all that jumped off, had they given me my rights according to that book that I read called Constitution of America, where it says I have the right to prepare and defend myself with assistance of counsel. See, a lot of you people, young people, even though you go through college, you still don't understand that courtroom. That courtroom is the court of the kings and lords of the world. We as human beings came and broke the ground here called United States of America. And the reason our system has perpetuated in such a way is because all the powers of Europe and England and the monarchies and all those big people, we have came over here and started another world to where each man in the United States has that power because he has that courtroom. That courtroom belongs to every human being in the United States. And if you take that courtroom away from one human being, you've taken that courtroom away from all human beings. Then what follows is you've got these kings and queens of yesterday. They're going to come and play croquet with your heads. They're going to take your courtrooms. They're going to take your money. They're going to take your country. They're going to take your resources. They're going to rip you off in every way you can think of because you didn't give your own children the benefit of the courtroom that your fathers fought in battles and died for. You know, it don't make sense. You send a whole wave of children over to die at Iwo Jima. You dig what I'm saying? And they died. They bled. They gave their whole lives for this. And then you take and you cheat the next generation out of theirs. And you remember when the Vietnam veterans came back? What kind of country would try their own soldiers for fighting in a war that they taught them to fight in? Now, you make sense out of that. Or this one, a veteran comes over, he's been shot in the leg, he's on crutches, and a young kid comes up and spits in his face. He said, hey, son, I was over there fighting that war for you. No, you wasn't fighting for me. He said, well, you still got the supermarket, don't you? You're still speaking English, ain't you? You got your streets, you know, they asked me, they said, are you a Christian? I said, what else could I be? You know, like it or not. I said, what do you mean? I was born in a Christian hospital. I walk on Christian streets. We have Christian armies, Christian governments, everything here in the United States is Christian, so how could I be anything else? It's free. This is the religious freedom. We earned the religious freedom. So when I see Baba Ramdas walking by or Rama Shamshamps, I mean, I accept them. I don't throw fire on them. I got my rights. And if I ain't got them, then you have reason to fear the Manson. You have you'll fear the snake because it's coming back at you and it's going to bite. And it hasn't got anything to do with me personally. And they say, well, this is you doing this. I said, how could I be doing this? Someone raises up in Indiana and they kill 8 or 10 people. There's 5 or 6 people killed in Georgia. 2 or 3 people was killed in Texas. And a couple more people killed over here. And then they say, you're doing all this. I'm doing all this because you didn't do right. Take it back to the DA. Ask the DA why he sold you all down the river. And he'll kick back in his big old $200,000-$300,000 automobile with his $500-600 million pad, and he'll kick back and he's not a DA no more. He just used that as a stepping stone to go to bigger things, better things.
You aren't saying that you feel that crimes in America, murders, what have you, in general, are being blamed on you. That people think that they're...
Oh, certainly, sure. They've got devil cults, and they got they've achieved all kinds of madness behind this. They've got all kinds of things going that are unreal. And I have big powers. I look at people and I say, I got power in my eyes, unlock the door, you know, and they said, no. I said, well, I never can believe what you read in them newspapers, you know. I'm supposed to be some kind of, come on, man, it's a big act. The goddamn thing's a fucking act, man. You know, even what I said right then is a fucking act. Everything's an act. It's all an act. The only thing that's not an act, the only thing that makes reality is death. And then they hang it on a cross and kneel down and pray to it. That's the only reality they understand. If you kill 8 or 10 people and you throw blood all over them, you say, now you see what I'm saying? They say, oh, we see what you're saying. And they still don't see what you're saying. You know? Can you imagine why we fought the Second World War? You know why?
No, you tell me.
We still don't know why. But how many people died? We won the war. We lost the principle. The principle's still there. The problems are still there. You know? But then it falls back on me, and I you know, I'm just one. I'm one ding. I ain't got no bell, or I got a bell, but I'm not going to ring it.
At one time, you mentioned Richard Nixon earlier, and he at one time had said that you were nothing more than a murderer who, you know, for all intents and purposes, was a glamorous figure. Do you see yourself as a glamorous figure?
I don't see myself as anything. I don't think I say it. I haven't opened this courtroom. I ain't got no judges on myself. See, here's the thing, man. You got to realize, I was raised for one thing: survive. That's all I know. That's all I've learned. I'm like, put it this, I'm in the zoo looking at you. And if you come in my cage wrong, I will eat you. I will bite you. I will tear you to pieces. If you come in right, okay. If you come in wrong, then I got to do whatever I got to do. I am vicious. I am terrible. I am awful. If I'm invoked, you can call that devil. You can call it Satan. You can call it God. You can call it anything you want, you know. But don't invoke me, because if you invoke me, then you got another war. We just stopped one war. We don't need another war. If they're going to have another war, you dig? I don't want to be no part of no war, man. You know, I don't want to be a part of hurting nobody. I don't like to get hurt. I don't want to hurt nobody. I don't want to die, therefore I don't want to kill nobody. You dig? Even though in my own spiritual self, I know there's no such thing as die or you know, it's a game. Life and death is one, you know, in the chambers that I live in. But I'm a little beyond time in the minds of a lot of people that haven't been in jail as long as I have. See, you got to consider 36 years in jail is a long time, guy. Some people can't survive a year in jail. They go crazy. You know, I have sat for 15 years looking at the wall with the cockroaches. Just sit there. I don't read books. I don't watch TV. I don't listen to radio. In fact, your station is the only station I listen to. It's okay if Sharon Tate's mother gets up and says, I wish someone would kill Charlie Manson. But what if I get up and I get 2 or 3 guys going home and I say, I hope someone kills Sharon Tate's mother? I think she would lose. If she wanted to play a battle like that, I think she would end up second best. But I don't want to do that. They said, well, what do we do? She said she hopes someone kills you. I said, well, tell her, why don't she come? Why don't she come and do it? Why don't she come and do it? I never hurt her daughter. I never even thought about her daughter. Didn't care about her daughter. She lost her daughter in the Second World War. Had nothing to do with me. Yeah.
Let me ask you, how do you relate to other prisoners? Do you interact with other prisoners? Do you have friends here?
Got a lot of good brothers in here. Got a lot of good brothers in jail. All my family's in jail. If I was raised up in prison, where's my family? If I got a family, where's it at? If you come up and you say, all right, well, here's your family ticket. You're in charge of the family. I said, okay. And they said, it's your family. I said, all right. Well, who raised me? Jail, prison. A policeman raised me. Convicts raised me. Administrators raised me. You know? So I'm an inside person, you know. They even did a thing on Star Trek that really got me. They had a parallel universe where they had these 2 guys and they had to get one guy on the other side. Well, I'm like a parallel universe in a lot of ways, you know, because I don't fit in what you guys do. And I never try. Even though I see over the air, I'm looking up over Universal Studios and I see up over Malibu, you know, and I see all the way to Ireland. And I see the IRA and the basketball and the bump, and then I get on my bike and I go back in the mountains and I smoke a little grass and play a lot of music. And anybody comes, I say hi, and they say hi. I say hi. They say, how are you? I say, how are you? They say, I'm fine. I say, I'm fine. They say, I like you. I say, I like you. They say, I don't like you. I say, okay, I don't like you. You know, I just learn to reflect people back to themselves because, man, that's not what are you going to tell somebody, you know? If you start informing people that are misinformed, you'd spend the rest of your life informing people that are misinformed. I would feel I'd achieve something if we could stop the